By now, most of you guys have seen this. This is kind of what drives us every day. It's what motivates us. We want to see our partners in manufacturing achieve world-class asset performance. And this is the different levels of asset management that we believe are just good milestones if we're going to achieve world-class asset management. Now, we do these health checks. We do several a week. Hopefully you've had one. If you haven't, Tim, go ahead and put that link in the chat for them to be able to schedule a health check with us. Guys, it's free 30 minutes. It's a look into your system, and we can show you where your areas of improvement are. We'll help you identify where you're at on this scale. And then we have some playbooks, things that we can help you, some targets to identify, some resources that you can use, some shortcomings that we see in your usage of the software that will help you identify how to get to the next level. And so most of you that we talk to are somewhere between reactive and planned. That's just the state of the state in manufacturing today. But we want to help you guys achieve bigger goals. We want to help you get to the place where your assets, both equipment and humans, are not constantly in reactive mode. Now, some of you are in that plan stage, and we want to get you to precision, and we want to get you to world class. We want to implement the predictive services. We're looking at some amazing partners to help with sensors and data and business analytics and things like that. So there's just tons of opportunity for growth, but we don't want to build up before we build our foundation. That foundation is critical, and that's why I chose to cover this session in a little bit more detail. So when it comes to where you guys, what we're talking about today is how to move from reactive to planned, and the thing that you need to consider when you're looking at moving from reactive to planned is you have a mindset change. There's a quote out there, I don't know who said it, but they said that you will only, you won't rise to your goals, you will fall to your business systems. So you'll only rise to the level that your systems are capable of supporting. Another quote is that you are achieving the results of the systems that you've created. So if you guys are heavily reactive right now, there is something about your organization. There's something about your assets, your planning and scheduling, your leadership, your personnel, your training, your software, your tech stack, your internet. Something is creating a bottleneck that's keeping you from achieving that next level. And one of the things that we have to change is this mindset of, and we're just going to fix it after it fails, and we need to start thinking about how we're going to fix it before it fails. Now, we all mostly know what that is, and that's preventive maintenance. A lot of us are really just kind of doing the bare minimum to get by, if we're honest with ourselves. Some PMs are coming up, the work orders are going out, and we just take the information, put it into express maintenance, and we move on. And the real game changer here, and the mindset that's going to move you from reactive to planned and get you prepared to move into precision, are your KPIs. You have to inspect what you expect. You have to know what your performance metrics are, and you have to begin to track and trend those over time. And express maintenance with good service history can give you that timely, actionable, and intelligent data that you need in order to run KPI reports, track and trend your failures and your successes, and then be able to identify areas of improvement. That's how this thing works. That's how we improve. I talk to a lot of companies that they're in reactive stage and they want to purchase sensors for predictive maintenance, and they're trying to jump from reactive to predictive. And the problem with that is you will always fall back to the level of your system. So if you're missing preventive maintenance, then the investment you make into predictive services, you're just not going to get the best ROI on. So I don't know who you are. Everybody here, I recognize some of your names. I've worked with a lot of you, but you could be just an end user of express maintenance. Maybe you're seeing express maintenance for the first time today. You could be a 20-year veteran. Um, whatever results you're getting today are a result of the expectations that you have for yourself, for your department, and your systems. So we got to figure out how to use our assets, and in this particular webinar, express maintenance more efficiently. So we need to expand the functionality of express maintenance. We need to ensure that we have our preventive maintenance program represents all of our assets. We need to have critical information in our CMMS, like equipment, parts, services, your estimated labor hours on services, labor rates, employees, all vendors, companies. All of these things are critical to building a preventive maintenance program and then getting into planning and scheduling. And then, like I said, you need to have your key performance indicators. So what does that look like inside express maintenance? All right, so here's express maintenance. I stopped looking at the chat just before I started sharing my screen. I think a lot of you guys are on some of the later versions of express maintenance, which is great. One thing Tim didn't mention is that for whoever's here today, whoever is on the oldest version of express maintenance, we're offering you guys a free upgrade to the cloud. So if you guys have the oldest version, you can win an opportunity to get upgraded to the cloud if that's an option for you guys. And so when it comes to planning and scheduling, right, that's the whole the topic here. To get there, you have to have all of your equipment, your parts, those kind of things. You have to be doing reactive maintenance, and then you can move into preventive maintenance. And there is an argument to be made that you could start with your preventive maintenance program and then do reactive. We've helped lots of companies implement express maintenance, and they really want us to focus on their preventive maintenance first, and that's fine. To me, it's not ideal. That's my philosophy. It doesn't have to be yours, but to me, it's a progression. And so here you have your equipment list. You need to have all of your assets, all your critical assets, especially inside express maintenance. On your assets, you need to fill out as many fields as possible. You need to have your services associated with the equipment. Guys, look at this. This notes field is not where you put PM text. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. This is not where your PMs go. Your PM notes are supposed to fall under the service, so that when I click here, the notes should be listed here and not up here. Why is that? Because if I have multiple air compressors and I want to apply a daily, a monthly, or a semi-annual, or any service to a type of asset, if I put all of my PM text here and then a few months go by, I've done some preventive maintenance, I've had some downtime on this equipment, and I want to adjust my PM program, I now have to go back into every single one of those assets and adjust the PM service notes. Instead, if they're in the proper place and they're on the services here, then whenever I adjust the service notes, it applies those changes to all of the assets that are the same type. So if your system has been set up to where when you go to services and you click this button and all those notes are up here, that's the wrong place. There are very few exceptions to this rule. But if you're not sure, I would highly encourage you to use that link that Tim provided, schedule a health check, and let's take a look at your system and make sure that it's optimized for the way that you guys are doing business. I'm not going to say that there's never a case in which the service notes should not be up here, but for the most part, they belong in the general notes. Now, how do the services get here? Okay, if I need to add, another service, all I do is hit the plus button and I just type in air compressor. Okay, and here's all of my services. Now, how do they get in this list? Okay, glad you asked. In order to get to that list, I go to administration and services. Here are all of the services that I've created for my assets. Now, If you have been primarily reactive, you may not have a whole lot of PM services here. One of the things that I see that is not optimal, is not an optimal use of express maintenance, is you'll just have a service called preventive maintenance monthly. And then that's typically where people will go in to their equipment. They'll apply the preventive maintenance monthly, and then they will add notes. And that's what creates this system where every time that you need to update your service notes, you have to update it on every piece of equipment. Instead, the way that we recommend that you do it is create an asset specific PM program. And it can be asset specifically to an asset or an asset type or category. So when I open up services, you'll see I have an air compressor, 1,000-hour offline. I have an air compressor, PM monthly. Air compressor annual offline PM. We separate offline and online. You don't have to, but the strategy there is in planning and scheduling. If a PM comes due and there are tasks where that equipment has to be taken offline, then that is something that I like to coordinate with the production team. And so now there are online and offline PMs. And so if the online and offline come due at the same time, well, the online PM, I don't even need operations permission. I can just go execute that work order or those services, and I coordinate the offline PM tasks with production. But we have all of these PMs for all these different types of machines, and when I open these up, this is where those service notes should go. I worked with Allied West Paper. It was yesterday or the day before, and they're doing a really great job of adding their services to this field. And now they're actually adding pictures. You can add pictures, tables, links. You can do all kinds of work here. And the way that you set this up is you give it a good service name. And if this is your preventive maintenance program, it should be asset here. Then the period and interval. This could be monthly, weekly, daily, and online or offline. Again, that's optional. And then PM. It should be very descriptive, very easy to find, and it should be asset specific. Then you pick your category: preventive maintenance, work group, who's responsible for it, cost center, optional, labor estimate. Guys, don't forget this. The reason this is important is when I go to my work orders, my open work orders, and I want to see the footer here, you can see that it shows me my labor hours down here. And it can calculate your labor estimate. Why it's not doing it right now. But it should also calculate your labor estimate. And if I'm planning work orders and I want to assign those to a specific technician, I don't want to overburden them with too many labor hours. And where this labor estimate comes is all the way back over here, and your services set up right here. So that when you assign this service to an asset and then that becomes a work order, then it carries this information with it. So that's critical. Then you also have your PM scheduler. Here's your scheduler. You can you have your renewal period, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, counts, hours, kilometers, or miles. This is just how often the renewal period that you want to have it renewed every time it gets complete. The renewal basis. This trips up a lot of people. It doesn't need to be that way. All right. Ignore this third option, work order manual. You don't want that option if you want this to be an automated system. Work order completion. When you're looking at the renewal basis, what you're looking at under work order completion is when I complete this preventive maintenance service, when do I want it? How do I want it to reschedule? And work order completion will reschedule it based on when the work order gets completed. For example, I have a preventive maintenance service that's due November 5th, and I complete it on November 6th, and it's a monthly. If I have it set to work order completion, then if I complete it on the 6th, even though it was due on the 5th, it will reschedule for the 6th the next month. Okay, that's that first option. Service originally scheduled just simply means if it's due on the 5th, I complete it on the 6th, then it will reschedule for the 5th. because that's when it was originally scheduled. Okay. If that's confusing at all, just reach out to us. Let us know in the comments, like, hey, we can go over that again in the next 30 minutes when it's open mic time and when we have our free for all, and we can go back over that again. Renewal logic. This is, you just have some options here. You can go just based on calculated date, which just takes this information up here and gives you a new rescheduled date. You can do calculate weekdays only, specific days in the month, or a fixed day of the month or week. Once you're done, you hit proceed. And now that service is, you're ready to add service notes to it. Now you can just come in here and start typing. Don't recommend it. You have a lot more options. If you go to the right click and go to the editor, here's all of the, it's like word processor. You can do bullets, you can do checkboxes, you can do multiple things. And right now, this service is for one asset, but you can also create line-based preventive maintenance services. So a line-based preventive maintenance service is a service that includes all of the assets on a production line. And that way you can create one service that goes on one work order, and it covers all of the PMs for all of the equipment on one line. And that labor estimate might be 4 hours. I don't know. But that's what you set it to. And then you hand that work order to somebody, and that's their task for the day. Or maybe the week is to accomplish that work order by the due date. Okay, so moving on. Once you have this service created, you'll make sure you save it, then go to your equipment, and then you can add it to your equipment. The next important thing is that you add your service parts. Look, when we are talking about maturing through this regressive, reactive, proactive, planned, and world-class pipeline or milestones, one of the things we have to begin doing is we have to stop giving ourselves an out. I can't tell you how many companies do not track their parts. And to me, I just don't understand. What that tells me, if you're not tracking your parts, then you're not really interested in tracking your downtime, your total cost to maintain, your mean time to repair, because all of those things are impacted by your parts, whether it's parts not available, causing and lengthening your downtime, or it is your parts and the fact that it's not available, so you rush deliver it. That's going to add to your total cost to maintain. It's if you're going to get serious about managing your assets, and you have the desire to actually go from regressive to reactive to planned and proactive, then we have to be willing to add our parts to our maintenance management software. Once you have your parts and parts inventory over here, once the parts are loaded and you've got your mins and maxes and your cost and all of that set up, then it's very easy to this. I've got this air compressor and I have to add a filter. Okay, well, that's the wrong one. Let me add the right part here. The filter in there. So there, I've got my filter. That's what's been added. I only need one per service, and that is done. Now, when that service becomes a work order, that part will follow it. And that's part of mean time to repair. You want to take all the guesswork out of your services so that even the newest person with just a little bit of technical skill can look at a work order, read the work order, and execute that work order and not have to ask very many questions. And by putting in the time on the front end to your services, making the services descriptive, including your parts, making sure that the site and location field is set up correctly so that they know exactly where to go at in the facility, knowing what the labor estimate is so they can see what the expectation is, and ask for help if they feel like they're going to take too long. These are all things that should be going into your services so that when it comes time to do your planning and scheduling, you're going to have a much easier time to do it. That after you've added the parts, then the next thing you want to do is add the last perform date. The last perform date, just simply a date, the last time the service was done, is what will then determine the schedule date. So if you've never done it and you want this this PM to be done tomorrow, then you just need to backdate the last perform date so that it fills out the schedule date appropriately. Okay.
On it,
Let's get that muted there too.
$5 COLA by 2%.
2%. Got it.
Kamala by 2%. I don't know.
And 3 recount dates due by tomorrow at noon.
All right, I've got it muted, guys. Okay, so once we have created the service, now we're ready to actually execute preventive maintenance work orders. And where that starts is over here in your service overview. Your service overview is a optional menu. For those of you on the latest versions, you can skip the service overview. You can set it up in your configuration to where it will only show, it will by your work orders will automatically create and skip the service overview. You can do that. But a lot of people like to have more planning, scheduling control, and so they keep it in the service overview. Now, the service overview will show you all of the services that are due based on these date ranges and counts and sites and all these other filters. So I hit search. Here's the services that are due. Where this is populating from is that field in Express on the equipment. This scheduled date is what is going to populate those services. So here it is, 10/14/2024. Now, this is just a service. This is not a work order, okay? But I'm ready to go ahead and convert this to a work order so I can take it through my planning scheduling process. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create work order, or you can right click and create work order that way. It's going to ask you if you want to preview your service selections. If you have multiple sites that are managing the services and coordinating and planning and scheduling services, you'll want to hit yes, because sometimes people will select to convert a work order, but they won't actually convert the work order. And so by converting the work order, the service to a work order without previewing your selection, you could be creating a work order that you didn't intend to create. But most of the time you can hit no. And then this is your scheduler. And if you leave this blank, that top field blank, it will automatically put in the due date of the service. So you can leave that there. Category, we have 2 options. If you are taking notes, this and your screen does not look like this, your options don't look like this, this is a good time to take notes. Your category, you should have 2 options, planned and demand. That's it. It's the only 2 kind of work orders that you're going to do, either planned or demand. The group should further define your plan or demand. So in this case, it'll be preventive maintenance. But you do have predictive. You've got PM, PDM generated. These are work orders that are generated as a result of the services that you're performing, the preventive maintenance services. You got breakdown codes, safety capital, and you can modify all of these fields, but these are what we recommend as a baseline. So we'll do preventive maintenance here. Classification. This is your planning and scheduling field. So you have needs reviewed, need to order parts, waiting on parts, it's ready to schedule, now it's scheduled with production, or it's pending manager's review. You can see the workflow, the progression here. And so I'm just going to mark this as needs review. I don't know if the parts are on hand, so I'll mark it as needs reviewed for now. Priority, low priority, just a standard PM. No requester in this case. Work group is going to be maintenance, and I'll go ahead and assign this to me as a technician. Now, these 2 options right here, create separate work order on, if it has a different service work group. So if in the equipment menu, you assigned it a different service work group, then it will automatically separate those services onto multiple work orders. Or there is a different service employee already assigned to that service on the equipment screen. Okay. If not, go ahead and hit proceed. We're not going to preview those. Here's our work order. Okay, this is a work order. It is a preventive maintenance work order. We've already identified, here's the schedule date, that 10/14, category planned, group preventive maintenance, class needs review. It was created today, priority low, source came from preventive maintenance, don't have a requester or sub-requester, work group, and technician. I already have, let's see, where'd my estimated labor hours go? Taken off. Labor estimates. I want to move that over to here. There we go. So here's my services down here. If I come over here and click on Notes General, here's the work instructions. Okay. If I have access to the mobile application, that's very easy to find. Pull that up here real quick. So go to work orders, and I want to look for work order number 94936. Oh, I'm actually logged into somebody else's database right now. Sorry. That's okay. I can still show you. So I'm going to go here, and this is a work order. What you're seeing on your screen right now is an express maintenance work order. You can see all the same fields under the general info right here. Under services, this is where the services show up, and the work instructions would be here. And if there were parts assigned, they would be listed here. You can add parts directly from here. And then as a technician, you can actually go in and complete work orders right from the mobile app instead of having to fill out a piece of paper, get it turned in, and then have somebody else take that information, put it into express maintenance. And I don't know why, guys, but there seems to be a lot of pushback on making express maintenance users take ownership of their work orders. Give them the mobile app, give them the permission to, and give them the training they need to close their own work orders. Technicians should have ownership of their work orders to the point where when they are receiving a work order, they know that they are responsible for closing that work order. But there's a lot of companies out there that have dedicated people to just taking information off of a paperwork order and putting it into express maintenance. That's the old way of doing business. Now you can have that information completed without ever even having to come back to the maintenance shop, and they can go from job to job to job. We typically see most people report at least a 30% increase in productivity for technicians. Labor is extremely hard to come by right now, guys. And one of the best thing that you can do is maximize your labor force by equipping them with technology where they can just simply complete the work orders as they go. I know the reasons that people have given me for why they don't want to do that. Whether it's end users, they're not technologically savvy. Look, if we're going to progress, if we're going to mature, if we're going to get to that place where we can do preventive maintenance and predictive maintenance, then we have to set higher expectations for ourselves, our departments, our employees, our technicians, everybody. And that really shouldn't be an excuse today. If anybody has a smartphone, they can complete a work order in a mobile app. And even if they don't, it doesn't take but maybe 15 minutes to show them how to click a couple buttons and complete a work order. It's the simplest thing to do. So just wanted to share that with you guys. For those of you who haven't seen the mobile app, highly valuable if you're to the technicians and really to everybody as far as gathering that service history. So that's your services. You can see I've got the labor estimate here. Go to parts. Here's the part that's required. That came through automatically. I can attach documents, pictures, things like that. Here's my space for technician notes. So now this is ready to be completed. Again, you complete this in the mobile app or on the desktop view here. It doesn't matter. Hit your green checkbox and notice what it does. Completed. It gives you a completed date and time. It automatically fills in your hours if you left them blank. If you need to adjust that, then the technician puts those in themselves. Parts, it completes the part and consumes that from inventory. And then there's no downtime on here. But now that service, what was that? That was a daily, is now going to get rescheduled for tomorrow. And if I don't complete the service, then it doesn't reschedule. It's waiting for you to complete that work order before it automatically reschedules. But now we've done our preventive maintenance, and I can go to my work order overview. I can look at all the open work orders. I can see them. I can see the ones that are in needs reviewed. Here's all my work orders that I haven't assigned to anybody yet. Pretty easy. If you use that field, now I can go in here to the work order, and I can see I've got it assigned here. Do I have the part? Let me see. Is the part available? There's that belt. I've got 43 on hand. Yep, I'd say we're good. Let's go ahead and move that from needs reviewed to scheduled. And Eric can now take care of that one. And I can go on to the next one that's under needs reviewed. And I can see, okay, belt replace part. I need to add that part here. Type in belt. Okay, there's the belt that's associated with it. Going to need one of those. Was that available? I didn't even look. Yep, got 28 on hand. No problem. That one's now ready. I can now move that one to scheduled. But now I'm showing you the actual planning and scheduling piece of it. And now Eric can take care of that one. Go back to the work order overview. Hit search. There's none in needs reviewed. I can move on to, well, what work orders do we need to order parts on? This is a great thing if you have somebody who's dedicated to parts management. If you don't have the part, then you can move the work order to need to order parts, and they can go in and look at all the work orders where they need to order parts on. Same thing with waiting on parts. That same person, once the part comes in, if this part comes in, I can look and see if that part is available now. And that's a conveyor belt. So let's add the part. And quantity 1. And is that one on hand? I've got 7 now. Great. I can move this from waiting on parts to ready to schedule or schedule it. Or if this is a service that requires the machine to be offline like this one, I might want to move this with schedule with production. And what that does is it gives me as the supervisor or manager the ability to go to my work orders and find all of the pending services that require me to schedule with production. And here it is. I can print this list off, take that to my production meeting and say, hey, this piece of machinery, I've got this many estimated labor hours. I need it down for 1 hour sometime next week. When does that work for you? You can coordinate that way. And so you guys can see the workflow there. So we're getting over on time here. I just want to mention two more things that I think are very critical to helping you guys begin to rethink and restructure how you're using express maintenance. One is a standard operating procedure. So this is something we started doing 2 years ago. It's a done for you service where we actually come on site. We talk to you about your current culture, your business and operational goals. What are your bottlenecks that are keeping you from achieving those? And then how can you begin to leverage your technology like express maintenance in order to actually achieve and overcome some of your obstacles, or achieve your goals and overcome your obstacles? And this is a 9-page document that's customized just for you. And what it does is it basically identifies how you're going to use express maintenance, express request, the mobile application, and all the fields so that you have a standard. If you don't have something like this, I highly recommend that we talk about getting someone on site and doing a document like this. At the same time that we do this, we also provide these workflows. So this is a workflow process map of what happens when somebody submits a work order request. Well, then that request becomes a work order, and who does that go to, and what makes that decision, and how are you doing parts management and parts inventory? This is also a done for you service that that Manufacturing Asset Solutions can do as well. I've seen these two things benefit companies who are struggling to get out of reactive and into proactive as just like a guide. It's just a guide to say, okay, whenever we aren't sure what to do, this is what we fall back on. So if that's something that you're interested in, just let us know in the comments, and we can schedule a meeting to talk about it. Okay, I am going to stop the recording.